All right, everyone, welcome back to the Progressive Patriots. It's just me, it's just Leo today, but I'm going to be giving you a bit of a rundown of what's been going on in the world at large. So, right now, it is 2300 on Monday, December 11th, Arizona time. So, who knows what will have changed by the time this hits your fucking earballs, but let's get right into it. So here's something that's pretty nuts. I remember hearing about this a lot when I was younger, at least in part anyway. So back in August of 2019, the Prime Minister of India, Modi, he revoked Article 370 of the Indian Constitution, and that particular article is what granted the region known as Kashmir a semi-autonomous status. Like it has its own separate constitution and its own governance, like the other states of India do. But so this is really watered down, really quick, broad strokes, little history of what this whole shit is. In 1947, when Britain was leaving the Indian colony, they divided it into two segments, and that's Pakistan, which was the Muslim majority, and then India, the Hindu majority. There's a little region in the middle called Kashmir, in the Himalayan mountains, that was not. They didn't. It wasn't certain where that was going to go. The UN at the time called for a referendum in Kashmir for the people of Kashmir to decide if they want to be a part of Pakistan or a part of India, but it never took place. So there was fighting between India and Pakistan over the region, and it ended in a sort of stalemate, and they both have a considerable portion of the region, like half and half, I suppose. So the Indian government granted special permissions, special privileges to Kashmir as a sort of compromise for them to remain in India. Unfortunately, the Indian government did not seem to kind of keep their promise in that compromise. They, throughout the years, they would remove local government officials that they didn't like, and it happened so much that it came to the point in 1989 the people of the Kashmir region had a armed revolt. They were looking to either unify with Pakistan or to become for the Kashmir region to become fully independent, which I'm not sure how they would have played that with Pakistan, but there you go. That's really 20,000 foot level. That's what this whole thing is. The Indian Supreme Court, they ruled that Article 370 was a temporary provision, so removing it was not unconstitutional. So this is going to divide that area into two federal territories known as Ladakh and Jammu Kashmir. They're going to be controlled directly by the federal government. They're not even going to have a governor like other regions in India do. So this is the first time in the history of India, which is really, really long, that this kind of power has been taken from local governance and placed into the hands of the federal authorities. So Kashmir has been contentious since the 40s, when the British left the area. So I expect that it's going to pick up again, and Modi, being who he is going to squash this very harshly. So yeah. Moving to Myanmar. They have been in turmoil for a considerable number of years. As of recently, there is another, broad stroke of it is the military government. I just gonna refer to them as the junta versus the Three Brotherhood Alliance, the Three Brothers Alliance or whatever, they're fighting for a democratic government of some kind, like a representation of some kind, right? So they've been at war for a long time, and China has brought these groups to the table for peace talks. Yeah, the Three Brotherhoods represent the minority groups that exist in Myanmar. They all reside in the northeast-ish area along the Myanmar Chinese border. So, interestingly enough, I think, is that China maintains good relations with both sides of the conflict. They have major trade agreements with the junta, I guess the quote-unquote proper Myanmar economy, but they also do some soft power investments, like we had talked about with that Indonesian bullet train. So they have those kinds of things in the regions that are controlled by the militant rebel groups, and so one thing is that one of the groups that's being brought to the table, the People's Defense Force, they've given their assurances to not just China, but in general, that they're going to protect investments that have been made into their territories. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning, I don't know if it's a he, I'm sorry. The official said, "We believe that the de-escalation of the situation in northern Myanmar conforms to all parties' interests and will help maintain peace and stability of the China-Myanmar border." It's another one of those soft power situations where the balance of that soft power is shifting, and I'll get to a point on how that is playing out later. So something crazy. I didn't know about this, I guess, because who it's targeting, but there are cybercrime farms in Myanmar, where they're run by Chinese crime syndicates. I don't know, triads and others, but they lure Chinese citizens to come to Myanmar for work of some kind. The one example I was reading was a guy he had worked in a restaurant. He was like a manager or like a head chef, somewhere up in the top with the cooking. Anyway, and he was lured to Myanmar to be with the promise that he was going to be teaching Chinese cuisine preparation to people in Myanmar, but he instead got locked up into a cybercrime farm where he was coerced into running scams on other Chinese citizens to get them to wire him money or invest in fake investment schemes, I guess Ponzi schemes, maybe. I'm not sure if that's what it was exactly, but you get the idea of what they were doing. One of the other rebel factions, the Myanmar National Democratic Alliance Army, one of their big pushes is to get rid of these cybercrime farms that seem to be supported in part by the junta, and but Beijing is embarrassed. That's the wording that I saw in the report anyway, that they're embarrassed by these cybercrime farms because it's, Chinese citizens being essentially kidnapped, held hostage to fuck over other Chinese citizens. So, yeah, everybody fucking loses here. Except the criminals, of course. But We'll see. I didn't know that that was going on, so I guess it's something to keep an eye on. Wow. I'm gonna skip Africa really quick so we can get to the UK, the deportation bill that they've been kicking around for the last few months. It's this one was formulated by Boris Johnson, and it has been, struck down, picked up throughout the intervening years until recently. The Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has made pretty concerted efforts to get this thing going. So the idea of the UK's deportation plan is any migrants that were found to have entered the UK illegally after January 1st, 2023, will be deported to Rwanda. Pretty off the fucking wall with the choice there. The Supreme Court of the UK, they blocked it, or they upheld a block last month. In the ruling, it was that Rwanda's not a safe place to send these people, and if we send them home, they're typically fleeing persecution of some kind. So there's not a whole lot of good places that we could send them. Rwanda is definitely not one of them. What I thought was interesting was that the UK had paid Rwanda £240 million to participate in this. With thinking back on like what the hyperbole, the lies, let's fucking be real here, the lies of Brexit that helped push Brexit over the finish line was this exact type of shit. Sending money to you don't know where, you don't know why, and you get absolutely nothing in return. So thanks, Sunak. Awesome. His government is trying to pass some. They called it emergency legislation. I'm not sure if that means something different in the context of UK parliamentary procedure, but the emergency legislation to get this plan moving, specifically overriding any laws that would prevent it, nullifying the British parts of the British Human Rights Act, and if there are any European courts on human rights issues and things like that, which have also stepped in to block this movement because UK is still party to them. They've made it such that they don't have to comply with these things, and they can decide if they want to or not, and to what degree they follow any rulings from any European courts. Some of the more hard right politicians over there have been saying to get out of those arrangements with any European organization. So that's kind of fun. All right. Another one that I had, this was from a few days ago. Where the fuck is it? Vladimir Putin of Russia, and Mohammed bin Salman, Crown Prince and de facto head of state for Saudi Arabia. They will be, at this point, I expect this taking place. I jotted this one down on the 6th, so it's more than likely happened by now. They met to discuss OPEC, the oil and gas coalition, I guess. The cooperation of Saudi Arabia and Russia on OPEC. They talked about Gaza, Ukraine, and other forms of economic cooperation. I remember reading that there was some fuss of Putin going to Saudi Arabia for the meeting, but for whatever reason he decided to go, and it looks like they will be meeting again. but it will be in Moscow this time. I cannot really think of any scenarios where those two being fucking bosom buddies is great for the US. I really don't. So we'll see what comes of that. I didn't check into it. Honestly, there's so much shit. So fucking much. I didn't even stop to check if there was any developments on that. Right. Oh, man. Let's do the president of Argentina. I want to say that I've already talked about this. I feel like I have. All right, I'm going to pretend that I have. If I haven't, let me know. God fucking fuck. Okay, so this is an Israel-Palestine adjacent thing, but this is specifically regarding the Houthi rebels in Yemen, and they are quite clearly like it's not even it's very obvious that they're supported by, funded by, and enabled by Iran. So their participation here is like, you know who it's coming from. You know what I mean? So the Houthis, they attacked some ships on the 3rd of December. There's a third one whose name I could not find, but the two that I did get were the Unity Explorer and the number 9. So the Unity Explorer it flies Bahamas. Like, I ended up finding out that if it's not like a navy of a state's navy, what flag they fly doesn't fucking matter, apparently. So, but anyway, I jotted it down anyway. This one's flying Bahamas. It's owned by Unity Explorer Limited and managed by Dow Shipping. The number 9 flies Panama, owned by number 9 Shipping, managed by Bernhard Schulte Management. Regarding these attacks in particular, a U.S. military official press statement from, I believe this was from CENTCOM, U.S. Central Command. They oversee operations in the Middle East. Let's see. What did they say? We also have every reason to believe that these attacks, while launched by the Houthis in Yemen, are fully enabled by Iran. The U.S. will consider all appropriate responses in full coordination with international allies and partners. There was also a statement from a spokesman for the Israeli military, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari. I think that he spoke up because there was a lot of speculation that these were Israeli ships when it turned out that they weren't. So one ship, this is from the Rear Admiral here, one ship was significantly damaged and it is in distress and apparently is in danger of sinking, and another ship was lightly damaged. So not a whole lot of news there, but there hasn't been any word from the Israeli government that I've seen that these do belong to Israel in some capacity. Doesn't seem like they do, but nonetheless, actually, there's a little bit of a development here on the 11th. Another missile fired by the Houthis from Yemen hit a commercial ship. It caused a fire and damage, but there were no casualties. So good thing there. This one, the ship is named the Strinda. It flies Norway, owned by a Norwegian company, Maunkel Chemical Tankers, and it's managed by Hansa Tankers. The cargo it had, I don't know why they pointed it out, but I think it's interesting to note, I guess. It's a vegetable oil and biofuel. So it's not a military target in any way. It makes this Houthi shit all the more aggravating. Like, dude, this is vegetable oil coming from Malaysia that's bound for Italy. Why would you want to deprive the Italians of the necessities for some delicious fucking pasta, bro? That's not a good idea. So the Houthis, they called this and any attacks that they've been making, these are retribution for the suffering of Palestinians, and they're not going to stop until Israel leaves Gaza completely. So, doesn't seem like they are. Speaking of which, in Israel, this was on the 6th, the Israeli military, boots on the ground, they start pushing to the south, the southern part of the Gaza Strip. They were headed to a city called Rafah, which is the only place that Palestinian civilians were told to go that was safe. There's a statement from a Palestinian man, is that these are his words. His name is Samir Abu Ali. It's the Israelis are lying. No place in Gaza is safe, and tomorrow they're going to come after us in Rafah. I expect that they already have been continuing what they're already doing, which is like indiscriminate bombing without any regard for the safety of non-combatants. On the 6th, the death count broke 16,000 people, 16,000 Palestinians. Yeah, it's one of those things that I really don't know what to say. It hurts. It hurts me to read those numbers every day. Man. Israel is using what are referred to as dumb bombs. These are the types that don't have any sort of GPS guidance, so that you can be a lot more selective over, who you're trying to hit. It's not going to be perfect, but, it's better than nothing. It's better than this. It really seems as though the Israeli military, the Israeli government, doesn't care who they're hurting. I really do sympathize. October 7th was a horrible event. Anyone who thinks that's acceptable in any way is a fucking idiot, and I have no desire to speak to that person anymore in any capacity. That should go without saying. I can't fucking stand how it's zero sum across the board. You cannot be bothered by the suffering of Palestinian people if you are, supporting maybe supporting is not the right word. Maybe like commiserating with the Israelis, and if you are supporting and advocating for the safety of the Palestinian civilians, then you are 100% against the safety of Israelis. It's fucking ridiculous. It's the dumbest fucking shit I've ever heard in my life. Jesus fucking fuck. Actually, very pointed. Jesus would not like this one bit. He wouldn't like anybody hurting anybody here. I'm pretty sure that's what the dude was all about. Not gonna say I'm an expert, but I am kind of read up on the guy, so I don't know, man. Maybe chill the fuck out. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, he gave the weekend around the 6th. I can't recall the day exactly. I'm sorry, but he had given a speech where he said, "The center of gravity is the civilian population, and if you drive them into the arms of the enemy, you replace a tactical victory with a strategic defeat." It seems that he's the first high-level Biden administration official to speak in this way, while he's not explicitly saying the Israelis are, their plan of action here is not a good idea, he's still saying that, this is not a good idea. Something it's one of those, I'm not saying that your idea is bad. I'm just saying that ideas like yours are bad. I don't know. It's worded cleverly, of course, but it seems like government officials are starting to speak out more, which is good. It's good. I didn't look into it. I did see though that the U.S. on the UN Security Council voted for like a UN they voted against a UN resolution for a ceasefire in Gaza. Really, it's really telling. I think it doesn't matter who you're like. I fucking hate framing it this way, even, but whether you are sympathetic towards the Palestinians or Israelis because you're a moron and you look at it as a fucking binary choice. Either way, people very strongly want the fighting to stop. I think there is the cultural consciousness is changing. That it is such that I don't need anyone to tell me what is happening in Gaza. I don't need it. I don't need Rick Riley on the Channel 7 evening news to tell me anything. I can look this shit up for myself. And a lot of the old narratives that we were always given are not holding up anymore. Now that we're getting information from people directly on the ground, directly from them. This, we talked about it last week on the U.S. edition, where there's a lot of Muslim groups in the U.S. They're, naturally sympathetic towards the Palestinians. And a lot of the actions of the federal government have been alienating them from wanting to continue to support the Biden administration. This UN resolution shit is, I think that might be the straw that breaks the camel's back. But back to the statement from Mr. Austin here. I've mentioned this before. If you've heard any of the older episodes, you've heard me mention this exactly. I've worked in counterinsurgency. That's exactly what I did when I was in Afghanistan. And what he's saying here is exactly what counterinsurgency is fighting against. If I had to do the job I did in Afghanistan, if I had to do that, just hypothetical, if I was in the IDF trying to do that in Gaza, it'd be anything that I did would be fucking pointless. Anything. Because I could take 10 steps forward and it just takes one stray bullet. One. To hurt an elderly person, a toddler, just a woman going about her day as best she can. It just takes one fucking bullet to ruin everything. I said it before. I'm going to continue saying it. This is not. I get that they're angry. That the Israeli government, they're angry. Of course they are. A disgusting attack on innocent people. Of course you're upset. You have every right to be. You have every right to pursue the people who perpetrated that and, let justice be yours. You deserve that. The Israeli people deserve that. The Palestinian people, though, who are not affiliated with Hamas, which is the overwhelming majority of them, similarly don't deserve what's happening to them. All that you're doing with this just brazen disregard for non-combatant safety is You are creating the next generation of terrorists. That is exactly what you're doing. This isn't a conflict that's going to be solved with violence, unless, barring a complete eradication of the Palestinians, which is just saying that out loud makes me sick to my stomach. This isn't a situation that's going to be resolved with violence. It's just not. I don't recall if I mentioned it here at any point. I believe I have, but there was I don't know. I don't remember where it came from. I just remember hearing it. Excuse me. I just remember hearing it, and it's a former Viet Cong fighter talking to, I believe it was someone in Hamas, and he was, the Viet Cong dude was advising the Hamas militant person, like, terrorism works sometimes. It can work sometimes. But there's a very big difference between what we did, him being Viet Cong, what we did against the Americans or the French, because they eventually have to leave. They eventually leave. But like the Israelis, they're not going anywhere. You can't, sit in your tunnels or whatever and try to outlast them. You can't. They're not going anywhere. They're always going to be next to you. And I want to say the same to the Israelis, man. Like, you're not going to outlast them. And if you do, it's going to be because you are criminals and you're murdering people. You're starving them to death, dying of fucking dehydration, illnesses that could easily be prevented if you would let humanitarian aid get to them. That's the only way you're going to outlast them, is if you kill them, which that's not outlasting anything. Jesus fuck. This is horrible. This is hard. Let me I want to wrap up the situation within Palestine with this. If you would like to help, if you can help, anything does help. lvx.at/map. lvx.at/map. If you can donate there, it would be a great help. Anything would help. That's the group is based out of the UK. They are it's the MAP. It's Medical Aid for Palestinians. That's what it stands for. So I got this one secondhand from a different geopolitical podcast I listened to, and she was hearing this woman talk, and this was like a few weeks ago, maybe a month. Hearing her talk about like her, not just her experiences, but the experiences of her fellow doctors that are in Gaza trying to help. It's heartbreaking. Let alone what we see like on Twitter or whatever. That's like the tip of the iceberg, man. These people need help. They deserve help just as much as anyone else. What is happening to them, they don't deserve. I know that the Israeli people are not at fault for this. Just like as a generalization, they're not the ones that are making these decisions to do this. It's not their fault. I hope in their next elections that they do make the necessary changes to prevent this. Not only prevent this sort of like horrible crimes against humanity that they're committing against the Palestinian people, but also to prevent October 7th from ever happening again. It's well documented that Netanyahu was very fond of having Hamas exist. They're an easy target, you know. They're a lightning rod that will allow you to do whatever you want, or else Hamas is going to get you. If you don't let me do this, then Hamas is going to get you. It's the same shit Republicans do all the time. So there you go. Afghanistan. We talked about the earthquake a while back. It was pretty rough. So a lot of the people in the region fled to Pakistan, to the federal autonomous tribal area or something, whatever the territory is on the west end of Pakistan that borders Afghanistan. But so the Pakistan government, and they put into place a law that would allow, like, via bounty, where you can get paid pretty much to target, if you know of somebody who is a migrant from Afghanistan, for example, we'll say, with very heavy quotations, but you can report them to the authorities and you get paid for it. The Pakistani government is saying this is not targeting any nationality, which we all know is bullshit. So there's that. But so far, 500,000 Afghans have left Pakistan because of this. Rather than be forcefully removed, they're leaving on their own. And given the time of the year, traveling by foot in the area is not easy. Sub-freezing temperatures. There's little to no services that people need, like clean water, medical supplies, hygiene supplies. A lot of the aid that goes into Afghanistan has been heavily curbed since the Taliban retook power in, I want to say it's 2021. I believe it was August. Anyway, so since there is considerably less humanitarian aid going into Afghanistan, a lot of that is the Taliban are kind of taking control of it and distributing it as they see fit. So there's two border crossings, Torkham and Speen Buldak, where representatives of the Taliban government are they're distributing food, water, they're giving mobile phones to people so they can call, whoever you can, cold weather clothing, and money to pay for temporary lodging. But the aid to Afghanistan has been cut severely, and the amount of the aid that does get there being distributed to the people who need it is also cut pretty drastically. So I looked around and I found what I think is a good organization. This is International Rescue Committee. They, from what I can gather, you feel free to look into this or look into your own if you prefer. They're able to get supplies directly to the people who need them. So if you can, anything helps. lvx.at/Afghan. It's a pretty easy one to remember, just like lvx.at/map for Palestine. All right, last thing before we get out of here. In Sudan, this I've been hearing a little bit about this since it started, and I'll get to that in a second. But so there's a war in Sudan that's been going on since April. It's the Sudanese military versus an alliance of militias that is known as the Rapid Support Force. The war is such that over 10,000 people at this point are dead. 6.5 million people have nowhere to go because of the destruction of this. I don't know if civil war is the right term, but whatever, we're going with that. So, the Sudanese military, they've been dropping artillery, mortars, just ordnance in general on civilian targets because, as they said it's the Rapid Support Forces might be there. Might. That's what they went. That's what they went with. So that 10,000 people dead that I listed was on December 6th. As of today, the death toll is over 12,000. There were peace talks that were going to be hosted by Saudi Arabia and the U.S. I think Saudi Arabia is going to be playing the lead on that, but there has not been any progress. Those talks that were set to go ahead were canceled because the military government refused to meet on the conditions of a permanent ceasefire and or as well as that's for the military people, and the Rapid Support Forces withdrawing from Khartoum, this is the capital of Sudan, and also the RSF chief, he only wanted to meet on the condition that the chief of the armed forces, his name is General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, he cannot attend as the head of state, which is kind of, I don't know. I'm not sure. I expect, he wants them to meet on equal footing. But yeah. So he sees that role. Burhan has been the de facto head of state for Sudan since 2019, when the RSF and his military removed Omar al-Bashir. The what I'm about to describe to you is I want you to keep that in mind when I don't know. I'm just going to describe it to you and we'll see where we go from there. So the Rapid Support Forces, they have been targeting an ethnic group known as the Masalit. So that ethnic group, the men are being taken and they are being dismembered while they are still alive. Yeah, they have their limbs cut the fuck off their bodies until they die. They keep going till they're dead. Women and young girls are being gang raped, and sometimes are being shot afterwards. It's hard to say if that's a mercy or not, but that I don't know. I'm not sure what else there's to say about that. It's horrible, the capacity we have for destroying each other. If you can, lvx.at/Sudan. You can give aid directly there. Every group that I ever list with these I've looked into them pretty considerably. I encourage you to look into them as well. Do not take my word for it. I want you to look into it as well. If you find something that you feel is better, please do. Anything you can helps. 6.5 million people with nowhere to go. Young girls being gang raped. Men, boys being cut into pieces. It's lvx.at/Sudan. That'll get support directly to the people who need it. All right, I can get this wrapped up. So, you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't really want to. If you go to lvxmedia.net, you can see all the other podcasts we're doing there. LVX Media Net, that's all the social media handles. If you want to join a group that tries to push the U.S. government to do something about these things, lvx.at/CDEF, that's Common Defense. Just a reminder of the direct aid that you can give, lvx.at/Sudan, lvx.at/map, lvx.at/Afghan. I have it set up still, lvx.at/Ukraine. And I haven't spoken on the issue yet, but there still is an issue very similar to what I just described in Sudan that's going on in the Congo. It's lvx.at/Congo. Pretty straightforward. I got nothing. If you can, if there's anything you can do, please do. Please be kind to each other. Nobody deserves this.